Good evening. Welcome to the Dawson Creek Mayoral Debate 2022. We're here at the Co-op Mercer Hall in the Ovintiv Events Center. We've got Darcy, Dober, and Shaely, Wilbur here, and a full, robust crowd this evening for a full, robust debate, I'm sure. We're coming to you live, of course, on the power of social media on Facebook for those that couldn't make it here tonight in person, and as well on DawsonCreekMirror.ca on YouTube. Very quickly, we're going to run down what's going to be happening, and then we're going to throw it over to our two candidates because that's what this is all about, hearing from them. Obviously, I'd like to acknowledge we're on Treaty 8 territory here, and then there's a handful of great sponsors and groups and people that put this together today. I'd like to thank them now: the Ovintiv Events Center, Sound in Town, Dawson Creek and District's Chamber of Commerce, the DC Calippi Group, and the Association of Interior Realtors. They sponsored the coffee and the water back there for you. So, I guess a round of applause for them. Thank you very much. We see, and obviously for people that are tuning in, we had the Poos Koopy debate last night, the All Candidates Forum. I see a couple people in the audience that were at last night's and tonight's. So if you make it to next week's candidate forum, you'll win the Golden Gadfly Award. So keep attending. Thank you very much. So it's going to be a really relaxed evening. Like I say, we're going to get into some Q&A at the end of this for the second half. But the first half is going to be a conversation with our two candidates, both incumbent councillors, one certainly a newer to the game, and then one more of a veteran. So we're going to do the official coin toss, and we've got a dime. We've found some old school money. Heads will be Shaely, because there's a female on the side, and because there's a boat and you're dressed for the Navy, you're going to be the schooner. So there we go. Darcy, you won the coin toss. Will you be receiving or kicking?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yep. And am I allowed to stand?
I would say no, just because we need you on the camera here.
Okay. And is there a timer?
Yeah, you bet. It's you got about 3 minutes. Obviously, you can go over. Don't push it to 4.
Okay. Perfect.
Russell will cut you right off.
All right. I guess first off, I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know it's a lot to come down and listen, so I appreciate everybody coming here. I want to thank everybody that's shown support to me. It's been extremely overwhelming and humbling for the support. I want to thank Rob for doing this, and thank Shaely for sitting up here as well. So I'm going to get started a little bit. For those that don't know me, I'm born and raised in Dawson Creek. I grew up here my whole life. I see that I don't have any teachers in here, so that's a good thing, because I had some troubled years going through the school system, and a few of them have mentioned to me that they were surprised that I was successful in life. So I was hoping a couple would be here. But no, Dawson to me is my life, my home. When I talk about troubles and stuff that I went through in school, I had times that were tough. It's tough growing up. It's tough going through things. I was lucky that I had an unbelievable mom that taught me some values in life, and it got me to where I am today. So I'm extremely thankful for that. I have 4 kids that I raised in Dawson Creek. They are my life. Really, it's what I'm all about, is my family. And they mean everything to me. And like my son said to me on my way here today, he's like, he talked about when I was younger. He said exactly what my teacher said, is that I'm pretty sure your teachers wouldn't have thought you'd be here. So, and then I get into my career a little bit, because that's what I think, what I know about my experience and why I'm the right person for mayor. I started off when I was 18 years old in management in the restaurant business. I was the youngest manager ever in that franchise. Within 2 years of being there, I was the #1 store ever in that franchise. And it was all through hard work, effort. I started at the bottom. I worked my way up. I come from a family with very little means. Everything I have in my life, I've worked for. And I believe, it's set who I am. It's what I'm about. I'm about doing things that are right, and about family. Since then, I left that company, Open Brown Social House, which would have been 12 years ago. And in 12 years, we've opened 3 restaurants. So we opened Grand Prairie, Fort St. John. It's, to me, that was my life and my family. I'm a leader. I lead at the restaurants. I'm very, very equal with our team. We have an unbelievable team. I think if you know me, you know what I'm about. And you look at my team that we've developed through all 3 restaurants, all of our leadership team has worked with me for 15, 20, 25 years. I'm about empowering them. I'm about, giving them the opportunity to grow. And that's what it's always been about to me. Success to me is not measured by money in my bank account, not one bit. It's measured by seeing other people succeed around me. That's when I know I've succeeded. And that's what I'm about. And then deciding to run for mayor, there was a lot up and downs on why I wanted to, and I needed to make sure that I was doing it for the right reason. And it was 3 or 4 months of I'm gonna run, I'm not gonna run, I'm gonna run, but it came down to my choice was about me. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because I want to. I have no other reason to do this besides I want to. I love Dawson Creek, it's my home, and I know I can make a difference. I can give back at this level. And that's what it's about for me, I have zero intentions on doing this. I have no hidden agendas. I just am doing it because I want to. I believe in Dawson Creek. I believe that I can lead Dawson Creek. I believe with a new council, and there's 11 great people that have put their names forward for council. I believe I'm the right person to spearhead that and lead.
30 seconds.
I'm talking way too much. I wanted to touch a bit on my vision, so that might have to come with questions. But a couple things. Find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life has been a motto I've lived with my whole life. And that is no difference doing this. I am only doing this because I love Dawson Creek and I love what I do. I've been a city councilor for 2 years and I've been an acting mayor for a month, and I honestly, this last month, there's a lot going on. I'm campaigning, there's a lot going on in the city, and I love every moment of it. There is nothing I'm afraid of, and I'm excited about the future of Dawson Creek, and I'm excited about sitting here right now.
Thanks, Darcy. Shaely Wilbur.
Thank you, Darcy. You're about to see our different styles, I guess. So good evening. And I want to thank you for your interest in the mayoral debate. It's great to see people out here in person as well as watching us online. So my name is Shaely Wilbur, and I would like to start by recognizing that we're gathering on the territory of the Treaty 8 First Nations, and I see many orange shirts in the crowd, and we will be respecting, hopefully some of us this evening at Nowakan, and as well tomorrow, Truth and Reconciliation, or as they're saying today, Reconciliation. So I would like to take this moment to thank my family for their support. You can't do this without your family. And a special thank you to my spouse, Bruce, who's packing a very nice handbag right now for me, and who again has taken on doing my signs and being my campaign manager. So I have worked for you as a city councilor for the last 3 terms. I have been honored to work with 2 mayors, 3 CAOs, and several councilors. As acting mayor, when MLA Bernier won his seat provincially and stepped down as mayor, and prior to Dale Bumstead winning his seat as mayor in the 2013 by-election, I got to realize very quickly that experience and knowledge were vital to the mayoral role. And I know 9 years later, I am ready to be your mayor. Understanding where we were, where we are, and where we need to be has come with experience, It has come with many meetings with provincial ministries, gathering information from more sources than I have time to mention, and taking time to listen to anyone in our community that wishes to have a chat. The next 4 years are going to be filled with many changes, and the ability to advocate strongly for our community and the economic drivers that sustain us, continuing to build our relationship with our First Nation neighbors, will be imperative to our success, leaving little time for a leadership learning curve. Over the last 4 years, like all other communities, the realization and recognition that we live in a time when the systems built to support people no longer sustain us, and the downloading of costs on the municipalities are not a viable option, and they have been pushed to the forefront. We are facing higher crime rates, many crimes that aren't even reported, increased mental health concerns, opioid crisis, a strain in our healthcare system, our emergency services system, and a lack of appropriate housing, to name a few, which means we have an aged official community plan in light of all of these areas that I've mentioned. As a full-time mayor, I will be there to listen, to lead, and to advocate where and when it is needed. I work for you, and even though it's campaign season, I continue to do the work needed to bring our concerns and solutions to the provincial government through the appropriate ministries, gathering information around wraparound services in our community to ensure that we actually have a complete database of accessibility to all citizens. We need resources to navigate through the struggles we are facing as a community, so I spent my time at the Union of BC Municipalities AGM gathering that information. I met with the founding member of the South Peace District Crime Prevention Association, and I discussed a workable plan when I returned from UBCM and had gathered the information on a community crime prevention assessment and planning. I believe the city needs to work with the association to assist in creating a downtown storefront presence where our RCMP, Citizens on Patrol, and the association itself can work towards a solution for increased crime. That's prevention. I listened and I took note of comments and questions made recently at a town hall meeting. I reached out to the chamber and I began the work on providing information, setting up meetings to work towards everyone feeling safe in our community. No matter who you are, what demographic you are a part of in our community, or what your needs and wants are, I work for you. In my conversations with business and residents, I've heard it mentioned we have to get rid of the old boys club. Well, as I told them, and I will tell you, I don't belong to any boys club. I scare those that do, and I can assure you, nobody's grooming me. I want to say thank you to the foundations of our economic development. It is all sizes of business. Our service providers, I'm drying up.
30 seconds.
Our service providers and our resources, agriculture, forestry, oil and gas, mining, and renewable energy. You have worked tirelessly, employed many, provided for those with less, and you keep going strong even after living through a complete shutdown. I believe local is priority in planning, procurement, and service. And our community needs your voices. Advisory committees, town hall meetings, email or a call, and I'm open to all of them. I believe in building community together. Thank you.
All right, so like we said, the first half of this is going to be just a real simple conversation with the three of us. There's going to be real no order other than where the conversation takes us, so you feel free to obviously jump in. Oh, that's the first fine. Oh, and that's a candidate up for election here, everybody. Get ready for that. So, no, first question, what do you think about cell phone usage in the auditorium? No. No, in all seriousness, let's start with an easy one here. you were certainly both here last week when we assembled for a different reason. What did you think of the downtown crime town hall here last week? Whoever would like to jump in first?
Sure.
Yep.
One, I want to clarify, it's not just downtown. So I've talked to a lot of businesses, I've talked to a lot of residents, and there's crime happening all over our community, from border to border. Not all of it is reported. And so I think the opportunity for the community to come together and voice their concerns was a great thing, and it really was focused on business, and kudos to the Chamber for hosting it. I think we need to give the same opportunity to residents. People did ask questions. I have followed up with almost all of them. If I haven't got to you yet, I apologize. But I think really what came out of that meeting was, we're hurting, and we need support services, and we need to come together to find the solution. And I think some of the solutions, though not identified at that meeting, are recognizable in the sense that people don't know who to call, where to turn, or where they can get support. And I think that's why a database is essential for our community moving forward.
For me, it was great. It was one of my skills is being able to listen, and I really, at that meeting, it was all about listening. I heard from the community what it was about and understood it. And I'm one of them. I'm one of you guys. I'm a taxpayer. I get it. I get the crime, and I get what it's about. And for me, it's about, we understand the problem. Let's move forward. What's the solution? We can't change yesterday. We can move forward. And part of it is, since then, I've been in meetings and Zooms all day and week in the last 10 days about different things and cops. And I, a meeting with Shaely today about some stuff. And it's about moving forward. It's about what's the next direction. And, I take that one step further. I look at the youth. I look at the youth of our community, and how do we change things for our youth so they can have a better life and a better chance at life? And how can we get more involved having youth groups and big brothers and big sisters and bringing things back in that will give that younger generation, a chance, the ones that need it. And that's what it's about to me.
Thank you. Let's move on to economic development here a little bit. Currently, the Economic Development Fund, as far as the city of Dawson Creek, is somewhat in a mayor's portfolio, or certainly has been low the last bit. Certainly, this is not the first municipality that's ever done that. But I'll start with you, Darcy, and we'll go to Shaely. What do you think of that practice? Is it something that should continue, or should be something that I know you're both talking advisories and subcommittees? Is that something that could go that way? Let me know what your thoughts are on the current direction of economic development from that city of Dawson Creek point of view, and what it would be like should you be elected mayor.
Okay. Currently, I'm just going to go with what going forward. I think economic development is a big part of our community. And, I believe moving forward that we need to have committees, people that understand that, but also have a paid employee that's an economic development person, understands it. I understand business. I'm successful at business. I get it. I get what it's about. But that's just a different level. I feel as a mayor that I'm a voice and more about growing and leading the community. So I think it'd be valuable to have an economic development officer and a business organizer. I'd like to see like a downtown business association and an economic development association and a business association, and let their voices be heard, because we're sitting in a council room with 7 voting members, and we're making decisions sometimes that impact a lot of people, and I think it makes sense to have an advisory committee to give direction and what they think, and then we can go from there and take it and choose to do it or not. So.
Thank you. I don't agree. I haven't. I've spoke about that at council over my last 3 terms, that the mayor's your economic development officer. I think your mayor is a go-to person, is the face of the community, but they are 1 vote on council, and they are just the person who gives out the information based on council decisions. I think we have to look at economic development, but I also know that we just had a review of the city, and what came up was also a communications person. So there's probably a dual role there. We're looking at handling tourism differently here in the future. So maybe that also is a piece of that. Economic development is a huge piece. One mistake that communities make when there's a downturn is they get rid of their economic development officer. The person you need is the person who's going to market to you. So I think that will be a decision of all of council, 7 votes, but I think it needs to be reviewed and discussed. Now, Councillor Dober has brought up advisory committees, and I will tell you, that's how I got involved with City Council. I believe Wayne Dolan was the mayor at the time, and he had advisory committees. And I got on the sports and recreation one because I knew the green space behind my house was recognized green space in the development of the Army Barracks in 1948, and I didn't want a road punch through there. There's no road punch through there, so you'll know I did my homework. But advisory committees are volunteers that were brought together to help gather information to council to bring it back. And I think that's important. And I think that it's widespread, and it's not for a select few. And I have been talking about advisory councils for over 10 years. So this is not new. It will be the decision of the next council that you elect, not based on what a mayor would like to do or what a mayor thinks should be done. The mayor's one vote, and the new council will decide if we have those or not.
Darcy, question is going to be for both of you, but let's start with you because I just read it in some of the campaign literature. You mentioned subcommittees before. Talk to me about how you'd, again, should you be elected, how would you like to see that broken down? You know, I can think of communities, municipalities, Dawson sizes that do have subcommittees where a couple councillors are sitting on it. But what would the function of these subcommittees be to, for lack of a better term, lessen the immediate pressure on every city council meeting and set up for that?
I see it as, you know, I got a list of different ones that I'd like, and, you know, but like youth committees and, yeah, like just, can you just rephrase the question? Sorry, you're asking.
How would you see if you were elected tomorrow and then you could wave a magic wand to have council, okay, we're going to go to a subcommittee situation. Okay. How would you see that broken down at the city, even if you were just drawing a pie chart or a family tree, so to speak?
Yeah, I would see multiple different committees, whether it's tourism, economic development, youth is a big one that I'd like to see. You know, where at beautification is where you take the engagement from the community, the people that are passionate about those things, and let them have some power and empower them to make decisions and choices and run with it.
Anything to add, or
sure,
not so much rebut? Discuss.
So one of the programs that we have that kind of runs in the back shadows is called Adopt a Park. It costs us about $50 for a sign. I have one behind my house. The Kirk family looks after it. It doesn't cost the city anything. So when you look at beautification and park space, we do have programs, and maybe I think we might need some new signs. Some of them are looking faded, but we have that in place. So advisory committees typically will gather information and bring it back to a council liaison, who then brings it back to council. They weren't formed to make recommendations. You elect a body of people to set procedure and protocol in place, and the one staff member, excuse me, the CAO, then directs the rest of the staff and management at the city to carry out that direction. I want to be real with you so that you don't have a misconception that we get to go in there, whoever you pick as mayor, and we're going to run the ship and this is what's going to happen. It will be a decision of council. Advisory committees are there to collect information, and they're based out of volunteers in the community, their expertise in their field. And I do think we need them. And I think your new council needs to have the discussion on which ones would be the biggest benefit. Economic development is an arching umbrella of many, many things, not just creating a higher tax base. So there's a bigger picture, and an advisory committee for business means not only small business, it means big business, it means resource sector. So what does that look like? And that is a council decision. Not one person can make that happen without the majority of council or by all of council agreeing. It's a great idea. I believe in it, just as I believe in town hall meetings, just as I believe in having a cup of coffee. But when it comes to collection of bodies of people for information, that is an entire decision of the whole council that you elect.
Thank you. And again, picking up some business from your literature, and you touched on it earlier in your opening. Obviously, you mentioned new leader and not being part of the old boys club, as you say. But you've certainly been on council for a fair spell here, and as I say, veteran. Don't want to say and make it anything about being senior or anything. But how do you separate yourself as a new leader from? Let's face it, this council has and previous councils have gotten along. So how do you I guess differentiate yourself from the leadership and I guess the direction of the last 15 years or so?
Well, any council can make any direction. It's by vote. And so, and I've said it earlier, I'll say it again, the mayor's one vote. The experience that I've had being an employee of the taxpayers, which is what we are, is that I've gained experience and I've gained relationships. And to move forward, if we cannot advocate for ourselves, be the first at the table to the provincial and federal government and the regional district, we're gonna get the scraps off the plate. We can't sit back any longer and play nice. Now's the time to push, to advocate, and know who to call. And so I'm bringing that experience. Whether you are a councillor or whether you are the mayor, out of 7 people, again, you are one vote. It is council who makes the decisions as a whole.
So either one of you, and do you have anything to add on just?
Well, I think like on the old boys club or the experience, for me, what I bring is as valuable as experience, because my experience is different. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to sit up here and I'm not going to say things. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to look at every angle all the time, like I do in business. And it's about what I can do to make things better. And I'll look at every angle and I'll talk. I got relationships with all levels of government. I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I get it. And yeah. So.
Here's one. You're both obviously current sitting city councillors. We sat here 4 years ago and over at KPAC as well, and the buzzwords of the day were fair share, PRA, get it out of operation, get it out operational into capital. You've been there obviously 2 years, and you more so. For either one of you or both, how is the city of Dawson Creek actually doing with that project as far as getting off the teat?
Well, yeah, I think it's well on its way. I think it's scheduled for 2030, but I think it's going to hit there before, where 70% of the fair share money is used for capital improvement. So, there was things done a couple years before I got in on this term, and a couple years while I was in there about changing and restructuring things, and everything's set in place for that now to go along that way. And it's a couple years ahead of pace if it keeps going this way. So.
In the same breath, and we'll just start with you. Are there any concerns, and again, not in like an immediate budget, but just on the horizon, as far as, geez, that's a financial pill we're going to have to either get out from under or swallow? And is there any tough decisions like that the city of Dawson Creek collectively is going at the council level going to have to make?
Well, I think the big part of it was moving the Peace River Accord funds, which is fair share, that was meant for capital costs. And it hasn't been easy, and kudos to staff at the city for doing it. It's necessary. It was necessary to do. You're going to hear me say that again later. It means the future of our community. The Peace River Accord funds are an understanding with the provincial government. They are not legislated. They are a gift. And if we are reliant to operate our city with that funding, and Lord forbid someone should take it away, we're in big trouble. And so we need to look after our future. We need to look at reserve funds, to maintain the assets we have. This is not something that's been common practice. So it's a part of our fiscal responsibility. And it's a fine line because within the budget and the planning, we also want our community to look nice, and we want to have great things for families to do, and we want to have crime prevention programs, and we want all of these other things. And we have needs to look after. So it's a very fine balance, and as your new council will see, you'll be looking at the budget line for line. That's reality. And as much as it's great to have new amenities and build big shiny things, we also have to be responsible in how do we maintain what we have. And so that's work to be done. The council that currently sits has done that work, and it wasn't easy, but it was a decision that had to be made because it's your future, it's our children's future, it's our grandchildren's future, and we're responsible for that.
Another question for both of you. Jump in, whoever. As far as there's going to be a lot of change, and not just obviously here, but in other elections, regardless of outcome, and then certainly at the staff level throughout the piece. And the city of Dawson Creek's no different. I think, again, not to say they're aging out, but there's a few senior staff that are certainly see some retirement on the horizon, and we know we're going to be looking for a new CAO. Is that a concern, just with retiring knowledge? And that historical base just fading into the sunset, and looking for qualified people to replace these staff members.
Yeah,
I
think it's always a concern when you're losing. There's a couple key people we're losing, but I'm not afraid of it. I mean, that's what I do. I have a company that's 200 employees with all levels of a structure, and it's a multi-million-dollar company. That's life that we live in today, and losing some and bringing some new people in, that's about change. That's about thinking outside the box, doing things different. Dawson Creek, I love Dawson Creek, but it's been the same 12,000 population my whole life. And I still love every bit of it, but I know that I can help guide it in a different direction. And that's change, right? There's a big there's some amazing staff at the city that are getting to the end of their careers, and there's going to be some turnover. So,
sure, and we actually have 13,500, just so you know.
Thanks.
Last census. In all honesty, we're going to struggle. Tumbler Ridge, for example, has no CFO, no CAO, no corporate director. We have other communities within the province are struggling to get CAOs and fill the same positions. We do a shuffle with the PRRD. We train, they take, they train, we take. We're going to struggle. But change is good. Where the struggle's going to be is we are going to struggle against those that pay higher wages. We are going to struggle to find people that have the credentials, the education, and the knowledge to fill those positions. And we have not been very good at succession planning. And that's something else that's going to have to be looked at. So we have internal professional development. So the younger staff coming on and the younger professionals have that opportunity to move up. It's not that it's not something we can accomplish. We will. It's not impossible, but it is going to be a struggle. And for those higher level people that work for the city, boots on the ground, as soon as the new council's sworn in, they're going to be looking at the CAO position. They're going to be looking at how do we plan over the next 2 years for senior managers that are going to retire. That's reality, but it is possible. It's just going to be work.
Another question, just a couple question warning for everybody. Get your questions teed up. We're going to be, after a couple more with me here, we're going to be turning it over to you guys. So one here, I've been here coming up on 7 years, and I've got a little bit of construction management experience. Why is Belterra's House taking so long just to finish the construction? What is going on there?
Well,
it seems to be
one,
Yep.
I'll just jump right in. It's not a city project. Yep. It's not for profit that's running it. And COVID hit like everything else. And the price of material went up like everything else. The carriage house is done. I do believe there's some nurses, contract nurses staying there. I know Dale Bumstead is heading up the project. I think they've got major work done on the main building, so it is, getting ready. It's going to come online. But the reality is, not-for-profit groups, projects, everybody got hit. The city itself has looked at purchasing in advance for infrastructure supplies because we're not sure we're going to get them if we wait till next year to order them. So it's the same for those type of groups. I know for a fact that they have an influx of funds coming in and they're working on it. So kudos onto the local construction companies and the people that are working on the project and the board of directors. They've got part of it done and it's going to come, and it's really not for the citizens of Dawson Creek. It is for the citizens from outlying communities to come in and have an affordable place to stay while they're getting medical treatment. So really, there's a lot of pressure on a not-for-profit group trying to get something done, but hats off to them and really a round of applause because they've worked through COVID, they've worked through increased costs, they've looked for funding where funding dried up. So I don't know if Councillor Dober has anything to ask, but I'm passionate about it. It's a great project and it will get there.
Yeah, I agree that it's a great project. I think it's great for our community and it is a benefit to people that live here. But I don't know how the construction, I've heard a lot of rumors about where it went to Ray, but I don't know much more than that. It was before my time, so.
Okay, 2 more questions and then we're going to turn it over. And you meant, obviously this is not a race to replace Dale Bumstead or anything, but his name can't not help but coming up, as it relates to certainly in my 25 years of municipal politics, he's one of the more accessible, Facebook aside, he's one of the more accessible mayors I've ever worked with. Not to say that there's a, we're looking at that level, but last fall, you guys were both there in city council, you had the bit of a freedom rally and a tailgate party on your guys' front lawn there. Is there anything you guys can learn, as councillors and moving obviously forward into mayor from that exercise of having that presentation there that then, of course, goes online and does what it does if things go somewhat viral? Is there anything you learned, again, for process for, future council meetings or just ways to deal with delegations and tailgate parties on your front lawn?
I think Dale did an amazing job at communicating to our community and our citizens, and that's something that I would continue to do. I think education and communicating is huge. I think that's where we start to break down, is when we don't do that stuff. I've had the privilege to work with Dale for a couple of years and know him for a long time, but I've seen what he's done, and he's the first to say, sometimes you'll learn what not to do, right, from people. So there was some things, and he's I think he did a great job and on both ends of it. So it was learning for sure. So
sure, it's something we've never seen before. It's the first time in my life I've lived through a pandemic, so I think we're all in the same boat. Dale is very charismatic. He's very community oriented. He always has an open door. And one thing that I think I learned out of the whole experience, we don't always agree. And also, we can't just tell people what they want to hear. Sometimes the answer is what the answer is, and we have to be direct about that, and we're going to wear it as elected officials because we work for you and we're your elected officials. So I think we all learned something. And, and whatever the decision is, whether it's ours to make or it's been put on us, we just have to communicate what we know. Whether those that elected us or didn't elect us or didn't vote at all, we still work for you. The answer is what the answer is, whether we personally agree or not. The answer coming from council has to be what the answer is coming from council as a whole.
Last question for you. Obviously, talking council careers, are there any regrets or redos or mulligans you'd like to take if you could go back in time and, pull one back if you could, or make a different decision? Be that, again, as a council or a councillor, either or.
Okay, well, I'll just say in the last election, I was in the top 3, and I was also one of the 3 youngest people on council, so I'm not that old. to say. You know, something you learn, well, you're going to learn very quickly. So I'll tell you what, when I first ran, and I know there's a couple people in the audience who could attest to it, I had a vision, and I was going to get in there, and boy, was I going to do something. Took me less than 3 months to figure out. I was one vote at the table, there was a process, and I had to learn it. And that's going to happen for the next council. So do I have regrets? No. Are there some decisions that I wish went differently? Absolutely, because I had a different vision and I lost the vote. So, you know, I still think those were good things. But what I do believe is we all bring a perspective, a dynamic demographic from our community. And no matter what, you need to speak for that voice that you're bringing to the table because everybody deserves to be there. And what I learned in less than 3 months was you need to have an open mind, you need to listen, and just listen. Regardless of what you think or what your opinion is or whether you agree, as an elected official, you need to listen. And then you need to bring back that information to the table and make an educated decision.
Yeah, do I regret anything? I don't regret anything in my life, whether it's council or my life. Everything in life happens for a reason, and I've learned from it. When you make mistakes, you pick yourself back up and you move forward. And, you know, I learned quick too in council, and, you know, I had a great teacher in Dale. He taught me a lot, but one was you are one voice. But you know, your voice needs to be heard too, and it's about what's right for Dawson Creek and for the citizens of Dawson Creek and the taxpayers, and that's always my voice. There's no hidden things. There's no other reason besides what's right for Dawson Creek. So,
all right. We're going to open it up for anybody that's got some questions. If you don't, I'll just keep going for a bit. I got one for you. We got. All right. Grizz Michael's going to set the tone with a good question.
Please don't.
Set the tone.
Am I good, Russ? I'll wait for Russ so everybody can hear my question. How's that? Good? Okay, I'm going to have a couple of questions throughout the evening. We'll start off, I think, with austerity. Shaely, you've been on council for 3 terms, as you said. Darcy got on in a by-election, so you don't have to take as big of a bite out of this pie for the question that I'm going to ask you. Shaely, you got to own what your decisions were. You cut parks and recreation in Dawson Creek over $500,000 over the past little bit. The PRA keeps growing. You've made choices as a council to move things around at the expense of young families in Dawson Creek. And I don't believe that you guys have answered for that. So this is the opportunity to do that now. You've also targeted one of the few remaining free things that families can take advantage of in Dawson Creek, our library, which is an absolute gem for what we have. I understand that the city of Dawson Creek has recently decided that they will no longer be helping with and thus deferring and thus increasing the costs of the library themselves in terms of the administration of payroll and their health benefits. The city of Dawson Creek used to do that. They used to just cover them, they were part of the group, and really it cost us no extra money as a community to do that because we already have staff to do that. So I'm wondering, the question is, well, I give people, nobody knows about it. Yep. So here's the deal. Why and how much are you saving? And what is your commitment to give back to make it even worth a young family to come here and live in Dawson Creek rather than moving to Fort St. John?
Thank you. Okay, and just so you know, Grizz, that was actually 3 questions, but I think Rob wrote them down if I don't know. Okay, so the first. That's good. Bring them on.
Yeah, in case you need a reminder.
Okay, thank you. So no, council did make that decision, and part of that decision with the budget was moving that fair share money and also looking at reserve funds, building them, maintaining what we have. It was not an easy decision. And I have heard from many people that we need to look better after the parks, because doing that didn't turn out to be maybe the way we thought it would. I take that. And sometimes when you're looking at the budget and you're looking at numbers and you're grouping things together, sometimes that's the result. And I heard it very clearly from a gentleman who grew up here, happens to be my daughter's new father-in-law, sitting at a table at a wedding dinner, and he's telling me how awful Dawson Creek looks. We look grungy and dirty, and we're not inviting. And I said, well, I appreciate your honesty, and I want to tell you I'm a city councilor and I'm running for mayor, and I'm going to take that back home with me. And I did. And I've heard what you said, Grizz, and I admit that that is something that had a residual ripple effect that wasn't positive, and we need to provide better care for our parks, for our families. Now, for the library, interestingly enough, I'm at UBCM, and they happen to have an event at the library there, and actually Jerry Lynn Chambray was there from Tumbler Ridge promoting libraries. And it was interesting what they do. You can go get discs to play disc golf at the library. You can take out interactive toys for youth at the library. And so when I looked at that, I thought, all right, libraries aren't what libraries used to be. And are we providing the support we need for our library to be what that was that I was in? And you are right. We haven't, and we're going to have to relook at that. And so your new council can look at all of those things and decide what wasn't a good ripple effect and what did work. I'm not saying the decision was right, but I own it. And I've looked outside the box to see how we could do better, and I admit that. And I did vote in favor. I did. But I will tell you that I will own my decision, and I know that I need to look at it in a much broader aspect and gather more information. Now, there was the third question.
Well, specifically about the library, I just follow up how much was. Yep.
All right, I got them covered then?
Darcy?
I mean, I have a little to add to that. I mean, lots of those decisions were made before I was on council, but I'm not about to sit there and throw my former council people under the bus. We're all a team, and you make a decision and you live by it. But yeah, I mean, moving forward, I look at the library. There's, they have 700 or 800 kids a summer that join that summer program. It's a valuable part of our community, and my voice would be to keep the library. And how do we grow it? How do we make it better? Those ladies do an amazing job down there, and yeah. And I mean, sometimes in life and business, you got to make tough decisions, but I don't know much more that went into those decisions, so it's a little easier for Shaely to comment on those. So.
Obviously, here's one. Nobody's standing at the mic, so obviously one of you will be the mayor. What do you think of the slate of council candidates that are having their name run for Dawson Creek?
All I can say is wow. Like, hats off to those 11 people that have put their names forward, and it's unbelievable because there's there's a diverse group of people, and it's amazing to see that much interest in our community. And I've had the opportunity to meet with almost all of them for coffee and get to know them, and there's a lot of people that are just doing it because they want to help. They want to give back to Dawson, and they want to be a voice. So I'm excited about all of it. It's amazing. So,
anything to add?
No, I agree, and bless you for putting your name forward. It is going to be partially what you think it is, and it's going to be a big surprise too. So, thank you for stepping up. It's not easy. I'll tell you, even though I've been 3 terms, I still got butterflies in my stomach right now, and it's not easy to look at the people you're asking to hire you. I've been in front of hiring panels before, but not quite this big. And so thank you. And thank you to your families, because really you can't do it. You can't put your name forward, you can't stand up, you can't do the work without the support of your families. So also thank you to your families.
All right, step on up.
Yes, I have one question that kind of has different aspects to it. I'm going to ask both of you the same question. How do you feel we are doing as a city financially?
You know what? I'll tell you what, we're doing much better than we were. As a community, this is a great facility. The Calvin Crook Art Center, also a great facility. Would I do them back to back? No. It put us in some hardship. We have 3 arenas. We have the curling rink, we have the Memorial, we have the Kin. They need maintenance, they need upkeep. We did not plan for that piece of it. It's great to have great facilities for families, for all of us, but we also have to plan and prepare and put the money in to maintain it. So where we were and where we are and where we're going to be in a great financial position because we've made hard decisions. And trust me, they were hard. Nobody wants to say we're going to cut the parks less or we can't give this group as much. But the reality is if we didn't make that very tough decision, we were going to leave nothing in the future for our families. So financially, you know what, we're going to be okay because we made an adjustment. The fair share was never meant to be in operations. It was meant for capital projects.
And where do you stand?
Yeah, like I think on a $41 million budget, I think you gotta look at everything, and there has been some cuts, and it's in a different direction, and there's a lot of good things. I don't, there's rumors that our city's in really bad financial shape, and it's not. I look at it as a business. We got to measure our financial shape based on services. We're not in a business to profit and put money in. It's about delivering services. So when we can deliver services to our community, our taxpayers, all of our taxpayers, that's when we've succeeded. And I think it's just a different way to look at it. And yeah.
Okay, now that I've asked that question, let's talk about fair share. At this moment in time, we roughly get $15 million a year. At this moment in time, 70% of that is being utilized to keep this town or city running on a yearly basis. Okay, 12 million versus 3 million going over to capital. You're now talking that you're going to switch this around in 8 years. This is a grant, guys. It can be pulled tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay? We have an NDP government that doesn't like the North. They haven't had a seat up in here for 35 years plus. They're having the same problem that you talk about. They're getting screamed at because there's not enough ambulance people. There's not enough nurses. There's not enough doctors. You're talking billions of dollars to correct this problem. So do you think this fair share grant is going to be around in, let's say, 2 years?
I think that's the risk is, why it was brought up forward, that it could be pulled tomorrow. And if it was pulled tomorrow, we're in trouble.
If it's pulled tomorrow, every taxpayer here is looking at probably $1,200 to $1,400 more on their home grant, I should say on their property tax.
Yeah. Or a drastic cut. And I think originally it was set to correct itself by 2030, but it's on pace for 2027. There's also, the city of Dawson Creek has just under $5 million in debt servicing a year too, which, impacts that a lot too on 40 million.
See, the reason I'm here is because you guys are going to appoint probably the most important position out there, and that's going to be the next CEO. Okay, this is the person that truly tells you what you can and can't do, because he's going to look at the books.
Yeah.
And right now, you're not in position to survive next year if that grant disappears.
Can I?
Yep, certainly, Shaely.
So I just want to clarify, we've actually moved 70% into capital from operations. And as Councillor Dober has said, we're on target to be ahead of 2036 to have 100% of it moved to capital.
But why didn't you think of this in the 12 years prior council you were in?
Well, like you said, you get the information brought to council, and that's the information you have to work with. It's not that we didn't look at it. We did discuss it. And our CAO takes the direction of council and down to staff, and we have a CFO, and we had a new one come in who looked at everything and said, guess what? And then the red flag went on and said, you know what? We have to make some harsh decisions, and we've made them. and they weren't easy. And it isn't a guarantee, but I'll tell you what, it was put in place because of the resource industry around us that utilizes the services in our community, whether it be medical, whether it be traveling on our roads, whether it be utilizing our services. Maybe they're playing hockey at the arena. That money was put in place, it's gathered from the government off those resource industries and given to us to maintain the capital needs of our community. And so we've made the decision to move it over, and we are on more than target, as Councillor Dober has said. We're ahead of schedule. And we need to be mindful of that, just as we need to be mindful of maintenance, succession, and all of these other pieces that are going to make us a viable community in the future.
Okay, I believe you guys have answered it as best as you can. I'm going to end with saying, I'm looking at a person that's talking from the heart, and I think I'm looking at a person that's talking political. So people will have to decide on their own what they want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before the next person steps on up, just for you, yeah, spilling off that gentleman's question, has this council had that at least discussion, even if it's informal, what happens if all of a sudden we wake up tomorrow and there is no fair share money, or if it, in 2 years, has this council had that even colloquial discussion? What do we do if all of a sudden we have to fall back to the secret city under Bear Mountain?
It's been a part of the discussion. It has, and it was part of making the decision that we did. And you look at it, every time something comes before you, you look at that, and then you gather all the information you can from staff to make the decision. And when our CFO come in and said, you know what, this is reality, well, then we better deal with reality, and we need to make a plan, and we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious if it was gone tomorrow, it would be troubling, right? So I don't know, it's like every decision you make, and business is about, do we have the money, are we doing it, why are we doing it? You know, you got to look at every avenue and every aspect, so, yeah.
Step on up.
You guys brought up the Baltras House earlier. So I'm a director and the treasurer of the Baltras House, and just so you know, we're looking at opening maybe end of November. That's not my question, but so my question is, how are you as a mayor's going to connect with the public once you're elected? I want to know what kind of avenues you're going to use to keep us informed.
Well, for me, a couple things. One will be these committees that'll form that will be a direct avenue. And the other is I'm open-minded. Like, I am open to talk to anybody. I've been doing it for, you know, this campaign period, but I've been doing it my whole life. Like, I'm open to anybody. It's about listening. And I think about education. The city has talked about hiring a communication person to educate, but I have no problems doing that as the mayor, as doing short videos. And if you look at the BC Forestry, they had a similar thing happen, and now they put out these 30-second videos all the time on what they're doing, and it's just education. And that's what it's about, is just getting it out, what we're doing and why we're doing it, so people understand. And whatever avenues that would be, I would look at all of it. But those are my ideas, would be, you know, social media and the groups. So.
Perfect, thank you. So I've actually, over the last few years, sporadically, as my time allowed, have had councillor cafes. And I intend to keep them and have mayor cafes, and let's just sit down and have a cup of coffee. I think also, and I know the planning's in the work and it's been budgeted to update our website to make it useful. And I also believe that we need to bring back our community newsletters that went out. And we need to be updating on a quarterly type fashion to the community, to every household. We should not expect or assume that everyone has internet. We should not expect everyone to be able to come to a council meeting. So it would then be on myself to reach out and do that. I'm not a social media guru, I'll tell you, but I've learned, because that's how today's world communicates, including my children and my grandchildren. And I will confess, if my phone doesn't work, I call the 5-year-old, but I still get it fixed and I work. So really, I think it's about putting yourself out there and being available and sometimes being vulnerable. And that's important. And to me, every voice in this community counts, and they're a part of the community. And sometimes we need to go to certain demographics because that makes them more comfortable to speak. So for me, really, it's about outreach.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a race. All right, you can both sit down if you're not going to do it.
How does this go?
All right.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, yourself?
That's good. I'm very well, thanks, Darcy. First off, a question. Do you recall which government gave you the Fair Share program? It was Glenn Clark from the NDP. I got to get my plug in. I want to talk to you about, you waxed eloquently about training CEOs, new people are retiring, or new people are need to come. We got more and more down the road, people are retiring. How many apprentices do you pack in the city? Zero? Well, you're going to all this trouble about CEOs, et cetera, and you've got no apprentices. That's despicable. Will you undertake to get apprentices in carpentry, electricians, heavy-duty mechanic? Can you do that?
I think you got to look at all of it, Lloyd. I think
It's an education process too. That's social justice.
Yeah, I think you got to look at all of that, and I don't, have that answer for you and the structure, but I think, culture is a big part of an organization and a group that starts at the bottom and works its way up. And I think that is something that you can bring as culture and succession planning and developing, and if it's apprentice then that's what it is. So I think it's something to look at, yeah.
Thank you. And I want to add to that, we also have a world-class trade center in our community, so we have apprentices that are ready to us. But I also want to add that council could set the direction that that's what we wanted to have explored and what that looks like, and the CAO would then carry that out and put that through the managers. But council doesn't decide who to hire. But we can set the direction, and it's a good point that, because we know if we train them at home, they will stay and they will work at home. And so it's a good point, and never, in all of my years that I've been here, I've never been asked, who should we hire? The only person council has the ability to hire is the CAO. That is our one employee. But to your question, I think that's something to be mindful of, and maybe the new council will explore, because it's up to all of them, that they set the direction on are we doing that, and if not, why not?
Just a quick follow-up. I think you can make a policy that you do pack apprentices. Not having some kumbaya talk, do it.
And we can
we
by
need
7 votes.
tradespeople. They need good family supporting jobs.
I agree.
And I want your commitment tonight that you'll try to pass that policy in City Council.
I will make the commitment to you that elected as mayor, that I will bring that to the council table and have council have that discussion to make a direction to staff to look at hiring more apprentices.
Brother Darcy.
Yeah, I would do the exact same, Lloyd. I think it's just makes sense, right? It's about families and creating good jobs and opportunities, and yeah, if the council would look at it and it makes sense, and by all means, yes.
Thank you. All right, knock our socks off, Stu.
Well, I've been sitting, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I've been sitting here listening for so long, I've almost forgot what I was going to ask. But anyway, if a horse breeder, I'm going to use some speculations here. If he has a horse and he's a good racer and he can make you lots of money, do you let him sit in the stable or do you put him out to the racetrack? You have an Encana Center here, you got a swimming pool, you have an entertainment center, and you got a place for the horses back here. The question I ask you, it's costing the city a pile of money to run this operation here. I would suggest that somebody better get off their ass and get this place rented out and get that swimming pool running. So please don't use excuses. You know, there's a saying that I'm not afraid to say. Excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one. So please don't use excuses. Tell us what you're going to do with this facility. You got $75 million in it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, and good question. You know, I agree, like we have all this money invested in here, and the swimming pool, for example, it's, you know, not open very much, and that's where I'm about business delivering service. We have that facility, it should be delivered as a service to our guests, our taxpayers. It should be open on weekends. It should be open on non-instructional days. And I know we have some staffing issues, but every city has staffing issues. Everybody does. So it's about looking at those avenues and just pushing the envelope, filling this up, getting more concerts. We're coming out of COVID, which is tough for a complex like this, especially with events. But we're out of it now, and we need to push the envelope and push it. You know, the contract that we have on this building, you know, it comes up in a bit, and I think we got to look at it, and we got to do what's in the best interest of our city and our taxpayers when we redo that contract. And that's it.
Sure.
Thank you. You're correct, and I've spoke to many swimming pools that have way different hours. They have a morning shift, an afternoon shift, and a closing shift. That's possible here. That's something that council's going to have to set the direction on to say just do it. There was a program for lifeguards. I know we've had some pass, and I know one young man from the community got hired. So we need to look at that as well, but we need to set the direction, and you're right. There are no more excuses for having lifeguards work on an on-call basis. Give them a shift. When you are on call and you are working a split shift, you can't take family vacation. You can't plan anything. So why would you want to stay in that job? We have one of the highest paid pools for staff so they can have viable families, that they can afford homes and cars and to do things. But yet we're making them work split shifts. It's wrong. We need to look at that and fix it. The other thing that has changed is we are working with Northern Lights College and the rodeo team. They've just put in some wonderful features in the Lakota, and that place is going to be utilized way more for college and high school rodeo. And we now actually have the opportunity to host regional and possibly national events. That's huge. And that stems from a great team at Northern Lights College. So we are going to see those things. And to what Councillor Dober said, when the contract comes up for renewal, we seriously need to look at it and make sure that the citizens of Dawson Creek are on the winning end of that deal.
Okay, I have probably just 3 more questions, and I'll try to keep mine throughout the night so everybody gets a chance to come up. Yeah. Okay. So here's a little bit of clarification on the PRA, and I think that it would be great if our mayoral candidates would stop fear-mongering. The PRA, for anything to change, all the signatories have to have a change for that. So for you guys to sit up here, in particular, Shaely, to say that this could disappear tomorrow is bullshit. It can't disappear tomorrow. So that money is there, and the whole point of it was so that we would have stable funding. And in fact, it increases. Okay? So all of you people there that are worried about us, we're okay, the wallet's fine. The money's not going to run out anytime soon, okay? So that's the clarification. Now, Shaely, how many years? 3
11
terms,
total.
right? So,
3 terms, 11
But
years.
2 of them were shorty-snorties, weren't they? Didn't they change it to 4 years?
For the first term was 3 years, and the last 2 were 4 years each.
Okay, fair enough. So you've had an opportunity then as a council person to make lots of relationships throughout the province. I'd like to go back to 2017 when you were involved as the, oh my goodness, what was it called? LGCA? And in fact,
NCLGA. NCLGA.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That was the year something astounding happened in British Columbia. We had a government formed by the NDP and the Greens. And you issued a letter on behalf of this group, and you were quite upset about that. I recall hearing all kinds of stories about it. And in fact, that letter had to be retracted. Do you regret writing that letter? Number one. Number two, have you made better relationships with the current NDP government sitting right now in a majority position? Because if I'm to vote for you as my representative, you are the person that is going to be dealing, quite possibly, with my friend David Eby. I'd like to see housing in Dawson Creek. Have you guys mended those bridges, and will you be able to be an effective communicator and a person that can reach the olive branch out to the other parts of the provincial government?
Absolutely. So one, I didn't compose the letter, and my electronic signature was put on it, and it was sent without my permission or the review of the board of NCLGA. The board, with discussion with me, did retract the letter. It should never have been sent. It should never have been written. And shortly after that, the ED of that organization was replaced. So I want to clarify with that. I also want to clarify that John Horgan probably got one of the biggest hugs he's gotten all year from me at UBCM. And I met with many ministers. And I didn't just go with concerns and questions. I went with solutions. And I also talked to Mr. Eby, and I've talked to Selena Robinson, and I've talked to a wealth of people while I was down there. I have great relationships with them. And I met with Green Party members, and I also met with BC Liberal members. Regardless of who the party is in government, we have to work with them. And so I also want to just backtrack on fair share. What I said was, it is an understanding, an agreement, but it is not legislated. And so that is something we always have to be mindful of. Is it increasing? You bet. So is the resource industry's picking up. So we can't sit by and think everything's great, more money's coming in, we have better to plan with. We have to keep pushing and saying, yes, but what about this? And yes, what about that? And we have to bring solutions. You do have to have all signatories, and really it comes through the PRRD, and we're only one member of that. But you also need to have all parties at the table when you're having the discussions, and that doesn't always happen. So sometimes you have to be the leader in the voice of pushing the others to come along and have the conversation too. Historically, we're the ones that sit to the side and let others talk louder. Now's the time to talk loud and make sure they're coming to the table with us. That's the point I was trying to make.
Darcy, building relationships?
Yeah, I mean, building relationships, that's my life. Like, I've been here my whole life, and that's what I do, is build relationships. And it's not about, who you are or what you are. It's about, at this level, it's about what's best for Dawson Creek. So it doesn't matter who you are or what political party. Like, I'll build that relationship because it's only about what's best for Dawson Creek. And that's what my voice will be for, so.
All right. Yep, step on up.
I, like Darcy, have been born and raised in this community my entire life. My children's life is here. My husband was born and raised here. This community is important to us. I want to give back. But one of the things that is concerning me and a lot of parents that I talk to is you guys talk about tourism and growing the community and lack of jobs. I am right now fighting to get my daughter support for her ADHD. I have been fighting for 2 years to get somebody to look at her, to touch her. And I keep getting the runaround saying, I need this, I need that. And when she was little, in the CDC and stuff, getting speech therapy and stuff like that, it has been a constant fight in this community. So my question is to you guys. You guys talked about tourism and getting jobs and support. What can you guys do to help bring in those type of jobs or that kind of build for the community that is a growing need for special needs and education and stuff like that?
Thank you, and I can feel what you're saying and really hear that. It's got to be hard, and it's about all of those avenues. I had a Zoom meeting last week actually with an organization that's looking at bringing a child care facility to Dawson Creek, and it's about offering things outside the box, so special needs programs, and that's the stuff that I want to advocate for, because it's, we need those things in our community, and everybody needs a fair chance. And, it's tough because it's a smaller community too, right? So it's hard to have those services, but yeah, we're all equal and all need to be treated equal, and it needs to be that way, so.
We have some really great organizations in our community. CDC is one of them. And we need to get behind them, and we need to advocate on their behalf to have better funding, to have access to better tools. And I hear you. My own granddaughter has been waiting 4 years to get to the neurologist at the Children's Hospital, and I'm at the point where I'm just going to drive her there because I'm tired of waiting and watching her hurt, so I get it. That's the strong voice we need. We don't need the building of relationships. We need to take the relationships that we have, and we need to have a leader that can say, I know who to call, and we're going to make that call, and we're going to ask them why they're not giving the same support to the CDC, to Catholic Social Services, to Haven Family Services, as they do to the same organizations in the Lower Mainland. That's reality. And if you're not going to allow us to get them in our own province, then you need to cover the cost 100% completely, and we'll go to Alberta and get it. Yeah. Yes. That's reality.
All right, step on up.
I guess, yeah.
All right, hit the question quick.
It's the same kind of question, I guess. Like, probably some people know me, maybe people don't, but here, I'll just...
Yep, into the mic.
Yeah, okay. Great. Anyways, I'm very discriminated against, and, I get kicked out of a business that you own, sir. I'm not welcome in a lot of places like Northern Lights College. Like, why? I'm different. I don't go around breaking laws, but I can't speak my mind in my own town. Yeah.
Question, though?
Well,
why?
The discrimination is what, yeah.
Okay.
Well, so it's
why,
true, though.
I'm not to speak for either mayor candidate here, but why individual businesses may have banned you from stores would be their individual business, right? I couldn't speak to why they would, right?
Yeah, but getting
I
kicked,
guess.
to college and stuff, just because I'm different.
Okay, but what would you like the mayor candidates here to answer as far as a question?
Well,
you know what I mean?
What could they do about that? I guess that's my.
You know what I mean? They can't. Again, I'm not going to.
Well,
in the same way they can't control the price of steak, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough go, but certainly I'll let either one of them speak to discrimination and being banned in community.
Well, homeless, Rob. Like I can't find a place to live. Place I live in is a boarding house on the West End.
For sure.
And yeah, the BS, man.
Okay, but
just because of me.
I can't, I don't know the scenario at my business, but, I can speak for how I am personally. I don't discriminate anybody. We're all equal in this world, and and that's the way I've always treated people. I'm open-minded. My business, I don't even know how many times I've kicked somebody out. It's not that often, but it's usually for a lack of, respect to people, vice versa to the business, but we're all equal. I don't sit here and judge anybody.
Yeah.
So that's the way I operate, and And that's, how it is. Like it's.
Yeah, but it's like behavior. People can do certain things in life, but if you build a fire your own way, everybody gets mad at you, right? I'm different is what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't click like the 8-cylinder vehicle. I'm like a 4-banger or whatever, right?
You got it. All right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. What do you have to say, Shaely?
Rob, you're unique, and you're dynamic, and you're talented, and I want everyone here to know that he is.
My name is Jim Morris.
Jim Morris. So I will tell you, Rob, keep working with the services in the community, right? Yeah. Keep working with them and get a few more tools so that when you get escalated, you can count yourself to being calm, and then people won't get frustrated with you and ask you to leave.
Like getting kicked out of the
There we go.
So there you go. Well, you stick with your program and keep working with the services in the community.
You bet.
And I don't get kicked out of the RCMP building.
Keep it going.
There you go. Good job.
We're going to kick you out of here. All right, step on up.
Good evening, everyone. I just wonder who want to answer my question, you or before I throw out. Who want to stand out to answer my question?
Sorry?
We both can.
Yeah, you can. Just throw it up there. Okay. They'll hit the ball.
So my first question is, what is Dawson Creek current challenge or difficult they're facing currently?
Current challenges?
Well, I think, one is crime is currently one. I think another one is our staffing, like the staff changeover that's about to happen, or, is a big concern. And, I think those are the two big ones. There's always a lot, but those are the two that come to my mind, so.
Thank you.
So we are seeing, from the community's perspective, an increase in crime, which now talking to them there is, but it's not always getting reported. So when we're getting the RCMP stats, they're probably not incorporating everything that is going on. But we are dealing with a mental health crisis. We're dealing with an opioid crisis. We're dealing with a shortage of BC ambulance attendants. We have a lot, as well as Darcy's mentioned, we're going to have some changes internally. And so we're going to be navigating through that. We're no different than any other community. What the difference is, we have to look after our community. And so we need to be a strong voice to do that. So there are many things to navigate through. There are many things that have come to the forefront. And it's going to be a lot to work through, but I think we have some great services in the community that we can work with, and we can advocate on their behalf for the services they provide.
Thank you. My second question is, can you give me 3 reasons I should vote you? Can you give me 3 reasons?
3 reasons why this gentleman should vote for each of you.
Yeah, you or you. Yeah. Thank you.
He's like, you go first. I want to know what our answers are. A gentleman earlier said I sounded political. I'm really not. I'm a mother to 5 and nana to 9. But I've built over 3 terms some knowledge and some experience. And knowing what we're dealing with right now, we need that. We don't have time for a learning curve. I do love my community. I wasn't born and raised here, but I'm going to tell you what, you adopted me. I spent 6 months in Fort St. John, and I had to get the hell out of there and get out of there fast. I needed some grass and some canola fields and some cows, and I needed some agriculture. And so this is my home, and this is where I've raised my family, and this is where my grandchildren are being raised. And I love working for all of you, and I want to continue that work, and I want to lead and navigate that new council through the things we're facing so that we're not stuck in a learning curve for 1 or 2 years. We don't and cannot afford that opportunity. So, I love our community. I'm a hard worker. and I will advocate when and where it's needed, and I don't sugarcoat things. Thank you.
For me, three things. One is I'm a leader. I'm a proven leader. I'm successful. Every single thing I've done, I've succeeded at because I'm not afraid. I work hard and I get things done. Yeah, and I love Dawson Creek. This is my home. I will go to bat for this town. It is about doing everything I can. It's not about inexperience. All the great mayors started somewhere. I'm getting experience right now as the acting mayor, which is probably what I've been through, is most that a council gets in a whole term. So I'm not afraid of experience. I've heard that my whole life. I didn't have experience in business. I've succeeded. All of it. I am not afraid. I'm here.
Step on up.
Hey, I'm not the greatest at this kind of crap, but hey, I'm going to give it a whirl. Born and raised in Dawson Creek. Always rely on the buses here. City Council has decided to take away a lot of hours off of the bus drivers, as well as off the routes. You guys also made, or the council itself, has chosen one of the very last resorts of canceling buses. Why? You guys say it's accessible to everyone to use. You guys are absolutely wrong. It is not. You as a family, you have kids, you have grandparents, you have aunts and uncles. If they don't drive, how are they going to get around town?
You're here.
And sorry, hold on. Cabs are very expensive. Step Up and Ride is wonderful, but they raise their prices for their users. $10, one stop, and then they go back. They only have a certain amount of time to use for the seniors or the students. So how are you going to bring back our transit buses and from say 7:20 until 6 o'clock at night for everyone to use and make sure that the manor has an accessible stop for the wheelchairs and the scooters to use, because it's not feasible for them to use where you guys have the bus stops.
Thank you. I think the buses, it's about bringing that back to council and revisiting the whole procedure. But it's also about looking outside. Like if you look at what Grand Prairie has just implemented, they've got a system now with their buses where you can, as a citizen, you can just enter where you need to be picked up and when, and they've changed their whole busing system to that. So I think it's about looking at different avenues and different ways to do it to get the best bang for our dollar out of it, and also to deliver the service to those that need it and take that as a priority. So I think it's more than just like dropping an axe down and cutting it in half. It's about how do you look at every avenue and what's the best. And there's a lot of different solutions out there, and you got to look at them all. And
they did drop the bomb though for Dawson Creek when they decided to take one of the last results or choices for the Dawson Creek residents. They didn't have much to do with the community's voices and all of the riders that take, especially the seniors and the everyday riders for it. They dropped it right by half. 3 hours in between until the next bus comes on. How is that feasible for our community to use? It's not. So if you rely on the bus, you have to take a cab. I'm not paying $20 from one side of town to another, unless you guys are, or unless someone else is willing to do it, or for somebody else to use. So as a person or a family member that you guys are, how are you guys going to help?
So busing is one of those things that we have to have. We have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be socially responsible. And sometimes services aren't about how we can save money and still keep the service. Sometimes the service has to be about the most vulnerable people in our community, part of the community that doesn't drive, and that it works for them so they can get to work and get home. So in looking at the budget line, I was shocked when council passed a motion at our last council meeting to provide free busing for the advanced voting days and the main voting day, to find out we're only providing free busing on the advanced days because our bus doesn't run on Saturday.
Exactly.
So I don't know when you all go grocery shopping, but for me it's usually Saturday, right? So sometimes community and economic development is about providing socially responsible services, and it's about busing, and it falls under that. And I will tell you that our manager was on the Microsoft Teams meeting this morning, and so was I, and it was around solid transportation, feasibility in communities, and there is funding coming out from this provincial government through UBCM that we can apply for so that we can maintain a service that works for those that are using it. So I want to thank you for bringing that up, and I will also let you know I did take Raceland's challenge, and I did ride the bus.
How often
And
did
it
you
was
ride
not
it, though?
convenient. I did it for 3 days. It was not convenient.
Okay,
So if
try it
it's
for
not
2
convenient
weeks.
for me to get to city council, I doubt it's convenient for you to do what you have to do during the day. So thank you for bringing it up. And you are correct. We need to be better, have more responsibility when it comes to busing.
And with the swimming pool as well, like for the hours, it doesn't work with the system for the buses.
And I think part of that is council needs to say to BC Transit, this is what works for us, and we need you to figure out how you're going to provide it.
Or you guys could all also work with Pooskoopi and combine the bus out there too as well.
And that's
On a
something
day
that I think the
service.
two councils can talk about, and I have heard that brought up, so thank you.
I think it got brought up last night as well at the circus out there.
Well, at least we're behaving, Darcy.
Was your solution to just have a small car and all the councillors got in and did the challenge for the
Just the
2 weeks out in Poos? Yeah, here. Dawson Creek had an opportunity to buy Greyhound buses. We have a mechanic, we have yards. Being a leader means taking a step forward and maybe doing something different and not relying on the managers of Dawson Creek, because the managers of Dawson Creek have been there for over 30 years and have changed nothing. So we're looking for vision and we're looking for leadership on the transportation one. That's what I want to just kind of throw that out there right now. Previously, let's put it this way. Have either of these councillors read the collective agreement that they hold with CUPE 2403, the 200 and some odd workers that actually do the work in Dawson Creek? That's the quick question. Have you read it, and do you know what the collective agreement says, the agreement between the city of Dawson Creek and the workers of CUPE 2403? Take your time, think about that one. That's the first part. The second part is, contract negotiations are going to be coming up with CUPE 2403 in 2023. When I was part of the contract negotiations last time, we were told at the table, there's no budget line. You guys want an increase? What's that about? Are you guys prepared now to actually start this process in a timely manner and provide the financials to the people that actually do the work and provide the services to the citizens of Dawson Creek? Will you take that on?
Shaely, go ahead.
Darcy's looking. Okay, so what the answer to your first question is no. So the collective agreement is handled by the CAO and the HR department, not the city councilors. So did we read that, approve it, say take it back or change this, or I'm going to say no. I didn't. The city did negotiate, and we were brought back what the discussion was in a report, and we mandated what we were mandating and shifting the funding to capital. But did we prepare the agreement, read it, and decide on it? No, that was handed down to staff. Council does not write up those contracts or create them.
No, I'm not asking you if you write them or create them. I understand that you don't. That's between your management team, and the workers, you oversee your management team. What are you going to do to ensure that the workers of the city of Dawson Creek get a fair deal and our firefighters, the International Association of Firefighters, get a fair deal?
Your first part of your question, did I read it? I was asked this a little while ago, so I've done some research in it, but no, I haven't read it. I would probably need a lawyer to read it to me so I would understand it. But I wrote some of it. Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Yeah, and the other part of it is I think you got to look at both, like all sides of the spectrum when you're doing that stuff. And, you know, when you're lease negotiating or, you know, negotiating wages, you got to look at what that does to the culture of the team. And, you know, there was some cutbacks with the city, and there's a reason why the culture has been affected a little bit. So those are as what has happened because of our actions. So we need to look at that and move forward. And on the next time, you know, it might need to be done differently.
Because the big question is, why would 250 of your employees vote for you, right? We get to vote for our bosses if we work for the city.
Yeah.
So why would they vote for you?
Well,
Why would the employees
for
vote
me,
next
it's a team. Like you know, as a mayor or an owner of a business, like I'm no higher than anybody else. I'm with everybody. This is a team, and without your team, you can't succeed. So there's a reason why in my business, probably the hardest staffing market there is, and we don't have that problem because we treat people good. We get it. I understand it. That's what I'm about. I'll look at all of it. We're all the same. Whether, you know, I can refer to my business because that's what I'm in every day, or was in every day, but it's, you know, the person that washes the dishes or cleans the table, they're all the same. I look at them equal. We're equal. That's what it means to them, and it makes them feel empowered and part of the team. And that's what it's about, is the more you make people feel part of it, the more it's going to grow and the better it's going to be.
So, and not only has there been a cultural shift, there's been a morale shift at City Hall. It's apparent. And we need to rebuild that. And we need to bring everyone who works for the city, whether they be cutting grass in the summer as a summer student, or they're a full-time employee that works all year, or their management, and we need to bring them all together. And we need to build up not only the culture, but the morale, and we need to also look at the succession planning and let them know that they're an important piece to the integral thread of the community. They go to work every day and work hard to provide the services, to maintain our roads, to look after every aspect of the city that we enjoy. And we need to let them know they're appreciated. And I can say, as far as the IAFF, that's negotiated before it even comes to Dawson Creek. It gets negotiated down south. And I will tell you, as a fire chief's daughter, that's my realm that I come from, and I know how it works. And whether it's the police department, the fire department, a city worker, someone from yard, someone that works in park and recreation, they need to know they're appreciated and that they're cared for and they're valuable to us. And I think we've lost some of that, and we need to rebuild it.
Step on up, you bet.
Okay, so my question is more along the lines of education. Now, I realize that you're not directly in control of that, of course, but I think when you're looking at coming into a city, moving here, you want one thing, if you have children, is what does the education look like there? And like, I have quite a few children, if you know that. So I have all aspects. I got kids in elementary all the way to high school. And what I've been finding is, over the years, they've closed down a lot of schools, and now our schools are overpopulated. So in my kids' elementary school, currently right now, we have a classroom in the gymnasium because we have no room. We are building these pods that, in my opinion, aren't really ideal. You got grade 2 children out there in our minus 40 below weather that you have to use a key code to get into the school to go pee. It just doesn't make sense to me. I also think that with teachers, my kids in high school, and what was it, day 2? Well, we'd have no more teacher. So we'll find a new one, maybe. Fingers crossed. There's been years where the entire year you were taught by a sub because there's no teachers. So my question is, as mayors and as council, of course, for them coming in, what is the plan to look at our education and how it runs and how it operates? Because kids need to be able to go to school and have a safe working environment as well as the staff. I think that's super important.
So I think as a mayor and council, we could definitely work to help advocate for the school board. But really those questions you're asking, and I know there's at least one candidate in the room, should be asked of your school board trustees that are running, because they are the body that's going to advocate for schools. And you're right, we're struggling with that too. But from our perspective, or at least from my perspective, potentially as mayor and having a council, we definitely could be a part of the advocacy piece to the ministry with the school board. They're great questions, and there's lots of concerns. I will tell you, my grandson is attending a school in Quesnel because they tore down the high school, and the entire student body is shoved into the gymnasium and 2 classrooms because the school's not finished. So there's issues, and we do have them here. I believe there's pods at Crescent Park. That might be the school you're talking about.
No, working out. But
okay, so, but please, I know there are candidates here, but please reach out to your school board trustee candidates because they need to know that.
Right. So basically, as a city, you're saying that you would support, because I just don't, like, what's your thoughts on how the education looks? Because I think if you're going to advocate for that, you have to have a viewpoint from...
Well, we do, and we also need to have a community that's inviting to teachers to want to move here, right?
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
So that's part of our work is working on the community and making it inviting and family friendly and marketing ourselves. What do we have? What are we great at? We have some great things in our community. We have a ski hill. We have skating rinks. We have a lot of stuff. But also we have to look at the gaps. What are we missing? 13 to 18-year-olds are the largest gap in the community. They're hormonal, that's when you're losing them, and we don't have much to offer them. So these are gaps that we can look at that would make it inviting for maybe a teacher or a teacher's aide to want to move here to our community.
Thank you, Tash, for the question.
Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go.
I just want to say, I think one thing that is missing in our community is more affordable activities for young families that don't break the bank, because as we all know, life costs enough as it is, right? So I think that's a huge gap that's missing, for sure.
I agree. And the school district question, for me, it's about building those relationships. And I have, I thought about one thing that, as a mayor you could do, and Dale did it a lot, was he went to schools and talked to kids and inspired them. And that is something I'd want to do, like work. I get the school district is a separate entity, but it's still in our city. And I think it's important to have those relationships with the school district and understand what's going on. And as well, like you said, building a beautiful city and making Dawson Creek the best that it can be so that those teachers want to stay here. So we attract those teachers and those professionals.
Okay, this will probably be my final one because I'm getting tired. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning talking about you guys on air. Here we go. The beginning of COVID, we saw a new CAO come into the city of Dawson Creek. Has served for how many years now? 2-ish? He was anointed. The position was not posted. And there were a lot of questions in the community about that. How do you go from being a counselor to the CAO in less than 6 months? That's part of it. The second part is, why did you guys give him a $30,000 raise for last year? Why does he get a $6,000 a year vehicle allowance like most of the managers do in the city of Dawson Creek? So this is operational, that's budgetary. Why? That's a question, because you guys voted yes for it. Or maybe you didn't, I don't know, there's 7 of you. But some of you did. And this was not something that was really publicized, and it had to be pulled out to find out about it. So that's one question. What is your process going to be? And this speaks to your succession plans. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm going to put my resume in there to be a CAO. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that would love to do that job, because clearly you don't have to have any kind of degree. You don't need to have anything other than maybe some political connections. So I have that. So I'm going to maybe an apprentice. We can get an apprentice to come in. So why are you spending money on the guy that we're just seeing the backside of now? Blair will be done at Christmas time, I believe. Can you give us our $6,000 back and maybe those managers for their vehicles that sit in the parking lot for the however many days of the year they don't use them to drive anywhere? $6,000 a year, $500 a month vehicle allowance for managers who don't drive anywhere except for lunch. I'd like to know why that's a good cost. Okay? So what are your feelings on that, and what is your process going to be to hire the new CAO?
I'll talk a little bit about that. Some of that was done before my time. I replaced Blair's seat on council. So, the wage, the auto allowance, I'm not sure like if every manager gets that. So I don't maybe have that correct answer, but I can get that to you.
Oh, I know your answer beyond the one meeting. It's all the senior managers.
And I'm sure there's a policy about how their vehicles are used, and I don't have the answer to that.
No one does, because you guys don't publish what their wages are. Only the employees that are signed with the collective agreement have their wages published.
Okay, well that's news to me, so thank you. I didn't know they weren't published, and I don't know everything about it, that's for sure. So, and I'll be the first to admit that. But, I look at, Blair's wage is who we're talking about, the CAO. I was told that he was brought in at a lower wage for the first bit, and then it would be moved up, and that's where that came to. And then there was some other things, comparables to other cities, other CAO wages. It was within the realm of that. And then moving forward as the CAO, I think you got to look at every avenue. Like, it's out to tender right now, and it's about in-house, out of house. Like, you got to look at everything and make the best decision for our city. And it's not, there's probably people within the organization that you could put in, or there's other people, but it's not about that. It's about. I'm going to look at, whoever that person is. If 10 people apply, I would look at every aspect, and I would make the decision. My voice would be who I believe is best for the future growth of our city and isn't afraid to do things. That's what my voice would be. I look after that leadership stuff all the time, and I build teams and structure it, and I understand it. And you always got to look at everything, everybody.
So in part of that discussion and putting the tender out for the position was that it would be open to all, in-house and outside of, that we wanted to see applications from anyone who wanted to put one forward. And you're right, Jim Shute was a good CAO. And I will also tell you that it was Jim Shute who told Mayor Bernier at the time that I was a lot more open-minded than he thought. So obviously he's seen some qualities in me. When we looked at wages, it was looking at a cross-section of the province of similar-sized communities, because we're not the only one that's going to be looking for a CAO. There are many right now, and so what's the attraction? Whether right, wrong, pardon?
He was already a counselor.
Well, yes, I know, and that was a decision that was made. Council was very clear moving forward that the next CAO will come from an application process that is broad. We made that clear. That is what's happening, and the new council will be picking the CAO. That was also part of the conversation that we were adamant about. I don't think it's right to tie the hands of the people coming in. So whether, as has happened in the past, the whole council got reelected, is still a new council. The reality is there are 3 seats available that would be new councilors, right? If 3 were reelected, as an example. but it's still a new council. And so they should have the right and the ability to pick their CAO and to help with that succession planning and building that for any managers going out. During that conversation, I actually mentioned a couple young people that work for the city that I think are doing an excellent job and should have opportunity to move up. And they should. And then you hire from the bottom and you start building people up and building up that culture and letting people know that working at the city is a great place to work and you're appreciated. So to be honest, I don't know how many cupcakes I've baked over the years and gone out to the yards or to the pool or all over the city to just say thank you and I appreciate the workers, because I do, and I think we need to bring that back. I think everyone needs to know they're appreciated, but I also think we need to be open and transparent, and I think that anything and everything that can be released to the public from closed meetings should be done so by motion immediately. I don't think we should hold it back. It is your money.
All right. Well, if we don't see it, Stu Flynn's, we got a race up. Kathleen, Stu on the race. Stu's taking the lead, and
now
just before we get going, these are going to be the last two questions unless we get rolling. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark, so Stu, fire away.
My rear end's getting ready to go home, so I'm going.
All right.
Just so as you know, I was going to suggest to the city council that an awful lot of the people, because I brought up the facility here, a terrible amount of your people that use the facility are rural. So now why in the hell don't you ask the regional district for some flipping money, because that's where their money, the rural people pay their money to. You need to be talking to them and getting to them to put in about 40 or 50% of the cost to operate your facility. I was going to tell you another little story, but I don't think I better.
Well, thank you, Stu. I'm wondering if you haven't been sitting on our shoulder, because we're actually working on that, and we have been, about increased funding from PRRD. So we look at comparison to money, say, Fort St. John gets for their facilities. So we need to be that louder voice, but we are having that discussion with the PRRD around users that use facilities, and we've actually gathered the data on the amount of users that use our facilities, but also looking at RCMP, also looking at the fire department, and the other services that we provide to the rural areas. So we are talking to the area directors and the PRRD as a whole to do exactly what you've just said we should do. So it is in the works.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I know in the 2 years that I've been sitting there, that's been a big project working with the regional district, and it's well in the process.
All right, this is the last question. Oh, I have one. Okay, second last question.
Thank you.
I misspoke.
I want to thank you both for being here tonight and for being available to us. We really appreciate that. Thank you. My question is around daycare. So when I sit with businesses or families that are moving into town, the number one conversation around retention and recruitment for really any employer in this community is around 24-hour daycare. And I know that in the past the city has looked at strategies around daycare, but we need immediately an opportunity for daycare. And I'm wondering what the city's position is on creating daycare opportunity in a really short amount of time to fill that gap. And really it's an economic development conversation as well, right? If you don't have daycare, we're losing a big part of our workforce because somebody has to stay home. So just wondering what your thoughts are around that, and thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Like I mentioned earlier, that I just had actually a Zoom meeting this week, and there's something that's potentially coming. I mean, it's all about council and mayor if it's voted on, but it's an exciting opportunity around the exact same thing you're talking about. So
I know that the YMCA has been in discussion with Dale Bumstead when he was mayor, and I know those conversations will continue, and maybe that's the group Darcy's talking to, I don't know, but they are looking at how they can provide that service in the community. When I was just down at UBCM, so for those of you that don't know, it's Union of British Columbia Municipalities, so all municipalities in BC get together to advocate for what we need. I actually spoke to the delegation from CUPE. And so something they're working on, and this alludes to the school system, is giving EAs more time and making sure they're trained as early childhood education people as well, to have before and after school daycare at our schools, to open up spots in the private daycares that we have. So interesting enough, and it started before my time, but it finished during my time, we had a daycare and we closed it. Now we're screaming we don't have enough daycare. So part of it is planning, not 5 years down the road, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. What does the community look like? What do we think we need to have in place? Daycare is a vital priority. I just met with the Ministry of Health. Well, also I was down there and asked them, you know, you're building our hospital on the college property, which has a nursing program, and it also has a daycare. So why wouldn't you have Northern Health invest some funding into a 24-hour daycare at the college, which is right next to the hospital that you're building? So we gave them a solution. Most recently, they've just announced that those coming into our communities that are nurses from other countries will now have the ability to take entry-level courses so they don't have to start all over again. And I'm sorry, Jillian and Kyle, I think you're in the audience and you're great people, but I would rather have 7 RNs working at our hospital than at Tim Hortons. So, you know, that's just an example, and they're great ladies and they're taking the social work course. So we need to help provide some solutions, and you're right, if we don't have proper daycare, professionals aren't coming. The average family in our province, and that includes our community, are $200 away from bankruptcy or losing their home. So we need, you're right, we need to move now, and daycare is a part of it because we need people working and we need children to be in a safe space.
Thank you both. Thank you. All right, this is the last question. Stu, if you get up again, I swear to God.
Okay, Shaely, I bet you can guess what this is about. Okay, we have a drug epidemic going on in BC. Let's face facts, Vancouver isn't going to help us. Before Dawson Creek turns into a tent city, like Quesnel, I believe, has a big problem. Trail's having a horrible problem with tent cities. What do you guys plan, and I know it's not going to be overnight, but in your 4 years, what is your plan at the end of 4 years about the housing problem and the drug epidemic for us? I mean, Duncan made tiny houses, worked for them a little bit. So what is your solution in 4 years to deal with that kind of thing?
I mean, that's a tough one to know in 4 years. I think at the end of the day, it goes back to what are the roots of those, you know, issues and the disease, and how do we, you know, give the support and help moving forward. But yeah, I think it's looking at all avenues, and if Duncan, I wasn't aware that Duncan built little homes, but I think it's looking at all avenues, and I know there's a big complex that's supposed to be that is being built in Puskupi too, that's will probably help with some of the education and the pieces of that. But I think it's, you know, it's a real problem and it's a real issue, and we got to look at every avenue and every part of it.
So what would we do if there's a tent city shows up in Kin Park next week? What is your plan? Like,
If what?
if we get a tent city in Kin Park next week, like.
Well, I think there's bylaws around all of that, so it would just be enforcing them. But
Yeah, but Quesnel's got the problem. Trail's got the problem. Vancouver, Prince George. Like, what do you see as a solution for us maybe going forward? That's what I'm asking.
the other part of that solution is to sit down with them and ask them what they need. Those people that live on the streets or that are having troubles with life, like maybe it's sitting down with all 20 of them and being like, what do you need? What can we give you? Instead of us forcing stuff on them and saying you need this, but maybe it's just listening to them.
So we do have some great services, and we got to connect people with services. And we also have to recognize what homelessness means. And it doesn't always mean you're on the street or in a tent. It can mean you're couch surfing. It can mean you're a displaced parent with children. It means a lot of things. So we need to have that database of all services, and we need to connect people with the services that they need. And I will tell you, Quesnel's doing some dramatic things knowing winter's coming. And winter is coming. And those people that are in tents in the summer, and we do go out and talk to them, we do try to get them placed into shelter, aren't going to be in tents. It's too cold. Where we're going to see them is where our ATM machines are at our banks. And the 20 will turn down to 5 that really need emergency support, because the others will find a couch, or they'll find someone's garage, or they'll be put into emergency shelter. It's not a quick fix, and the only way that we can help those that are displaced, whether it be someone who's staying in a tent down by the creek, or it's a parent with children that are displaced, is to connect them with the services that we have. And sometimes those services put people up in hotel rooms for months at a time, or they help them navigate getting housing. So there's no easy solution, but I will tell you this. We had a young mother with 2 boys a few years ago, and her house burnt 2 days before Christmas Eve. And I watched this community, who came in troves to my doorstep with gift cards and clothes and dishes, companies that came forward, and that family was in a home fully furnished with everything that you could imagine. And Santa arrived on Christmas Eve. That's our community. That's who we are. And so regardless of where you're displaced or your needs, we need to be that community.
So we're going to turn it over to some closing remarks. Just before we do, get a bit of a break here for important dates coming up. Tuesday, October 4th, right back here, we're going to be having a chat with our city council candidates. And then advanced polling for Dawson Creek is October 5th, October 12th. And then E-Day across the province is October 15th. Corey, you got your hand up. What do you got? One more? Stu? I swear to God. What is this? Are you just taking off? Okay. Corey, this is going to be a quick one, though, right? Okay. Okay.
You should listen to me. I can teach.
Stu's got.
That's experience right there.
In like Flynn. In like Flynn.
Good job. Okay, so quick question, and it's to both of you. Shaely, you may be able to speak to this more. I don't know if you took part in the presentation made at the last conference you were at, but I wanted to know, first of all, are you guys familiar with the period promise? Second of all, if you're not, will you find out about it? And third of all, will you support it? And I'll give everybody here a bit of an idea of what it is. 50% of our population menstruates. Some of us do it more than others. Will you guys commit to having feminine products in the bathrooms at all of the public buildings in the city of Dawson Creek, so that we don't have a disproportionate amount of money being spent on these products or accidents happening and people having to be embarrassed? There's no reason that as a woman I should have to be able to be worried about this, especially in a place where you guys put toilet paper in both bathrooms. Why can't you do that for the one bathrooms for the women? I know that there is a push for this, and I know that a lot of the cities down south are doing it. Is it something that you will do?
So I want to give kudos to Councillor Kempf, who's actually in the audience. She brought that forward to council, and it was passed unanimously. So you will see that happening. We've made that commitment, and you're right. Nobody should be alienated or denied basic access to services that they need. And so, yes, so another big round for Amy, who did that, because she did bring it forward and we did pass it unanimously.
Good.
Unless you want to add to that.
Ditto. Okay, well, we're going to, as promised, the same order on the way out. So, Darcy, if you want to close it up and bring up your closing remarks, about 5 minutes. Yep.
Perfect. Again, I wanted to thank everybody for coming out. You know, for me, like I said through this, I'm not a politician and I don't have 11 years experience. What I do have, I have a heart, a passion for this community And I have the drive to succeed. I follow through, I do things. I build teams, I can build companies. It's very similar, if not the exact same. I'm not afraid of any challenges. Any challenge that I've ever had in my life is about just putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. You know, my commitment, I'm doing this because I want to, and my commitment is about I'm going to do what's right for the community, the people of our community in every aspect. That's what it's for me. The leadership, I'm a leader. That's what I do. I lead people. I don't manage. I don't micromanage people. I lead as a team. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about a new council, that there's 11 amazing people running. I'm excited about all that, about the future, about some change with the city. You know, all of it is, I don't know, it doesn't scare me. It's exciting. I'm glad that I can sit here today to listen. You know, when you were talking about the buses, that hit with me because I haven't heard that, and it's like, that's real. That's what it's about. That's, you know, what every decision needs to be about. So, yeah, I'm here, I'm open, and I'm willing to go to, not willing, I'm going to go to bat for Dawson Creek, and I'm going to do the best job I can, and I guarantee you I'm not going to be perfect. I'll make mistakes, but I'll learn from it, and I'll move forward, and I will always keep the taxpayers and the citizens of Dawson Creek first and foremost. Every decision I make, like I have in the 2 years that I've been on council. So, you know, I just want to thank everybody again for being here, and I'm truly humbled that I'm in this position today, and I'm excited about it. So, thank you.
I just want to start by saying thank you for attending tonight, whether you're here in person or you're attending on the live stream. And I want to thank you for your questions. I think as elected officials, you should hold our feet to the bar. And I also want to thank you for believing in our community. That's why you're here tonight, because you actually believe in our community. And so I thank you. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I do bring experience and knowledge to the council table, but I also bring an open mind. And I'm interested in hearing from all citizens, not just a select few. We had a gentleman here earlier this evening. I talk to him on a regular basis, and I'm happy to buy him a cup of coffee, and he is unique, and I love him just as much as I love everybody else in the community. And when I represent our community at home or away, I do so with much pride. And my colleagues around the province can tell you that everybody knows where Dawson Creek is, and who we are, and the great things that we have to offer. I believe that our next council is going to bring some fresh perspective, and those who are new are going to learn why certain decisions were made, and they're going to need to navigate process very quickly, just as I did when I entered into that role. But what we can't afford, looking at all of the crises, all of the things on our plate, is an inexperienced leader, a mayor that doesn't have the current connections with higher levels of government, with our neighbors who are struggling with the same issues in north central BC. And we just can't afford to be new at this moving forward. We need the experience and the connection, and we need historical knowledge for our community to move forward. We are fighting for the same piece out of the same pie as every other municipality in this province. We can't sit back and be comfortable. We can't be in a learning curve. We need to push, we need to advocate, and we need to work on our solutions. So we need to be in front of those conversations with the regional, provincial, and federal governments, and we need to have a focus on economic development, which includes our tourism and communication. However, it also includes social responsibility, emergency services, and housing. To develop, we need to have a larger tax base, but we also need a community that families feel safe in, security in the services they need and amenities that they will want. And we need to work towards having a healthy choice for our youth. It is proven that between the ages of 13 and 18, there is very little for youth to do outside of organized sports, and this needs to be addressed in future planning, and it needs to be encompassed in what we want our community to look like. There is work to be done, and it needs to be done on many levels, and I cannot stress enough that we cannot afford to be latecomers to the table. We need to continue on some of the work that has been started, and we need to follow through with the questions and the solutions that were given recently to healthcare, brownfields, and transportation. People who leave contaminated properties in our community, such as old gas stations, need to clean them up. If we're expected to develop, then they need to clean up the garbage that they left for the taxpayers to hold on to. I work for you, and you deserve a mayor who is prepared and has the knowledge to navigate the higher levels of government for what we need without it being a burden to you, the taxpayers. A mayor that will lead you and your new council through process, procedure, and be focused on the mayor's entire role. I thank you for spending your time here this evening with us, and I want you to know that voting for me is building this community together. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to obviously thank Darcy Dober and Shaely Wilbur for coming out tonight. Obviously, we'll see you on the other side of the long weekend for our council debate, exactly right here, doors at 6:30, show at 7, so to speak. And obviously a reminder for E-Day on October 15th, we're going to be giving you the South Peace and obviously general BC results throughout the day as they come in. Again, thank you, Darcy and Shaely. I'd like to thank Russ for sound in town, for the stream, obviously. I'd like to thank Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce, DC Calippi Group, the Association of Interior Realtors, and the Ovintiv Events Center. Obviously, I'd like to thank everybody here and then everybody online as well, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.